So this past week's just been an absolute catastrophe for Reform UK, and I need to talk about it because watching these people implode in real time is genuinely fascinating. We've got Leila Cunningham literally admitting that she doesn't deal in facts, Nadim Zahawi telling the most pathetic, dangerous London story you've ever heard, and old clips of Robert Jenrick resurfacing where he calls Nigel Farage a completely unserious person. It's a masterclass on how not to do political messaging, and I'm going to walk through the whole beautiful disaster. So let's start with Laila Cunningham, Reform's candidate for Mayor of London, who gave this little gem of an introduction before her Oxford Union speech.
I didn't go to Oxford. I didn't quite make it. I didn't read books, and as the Open said, I spent time doing slam dunks. So I don't come with facts, I don't come with dates, and I don't come with poetry. As a politician, I come with rhetoric.
I'm sorry, what? You're standing in the Oxford Union trying to convince people that you should run one of the world's major cities, and you're opening with, I don't do facts, I just do rhetoric. That's not the humble underdog story you think it is, Leila. That's you admitting that everything that you're about to say is performance art with no substance behind it. And the thing is that she says it like it's charming, like she's just being honest about her limitations. But what she's actually doing is preemptively excusing herself from having to know anything or be accurate about anything. Because, hey, she's already told you she doesn't do facts. And this matters because during the same Oxford speech, she gets asked about Robert Jenrick joining the Reform, despite being part of the Conservative failures she spent the whole talk criticising. And when the questioner points out of the hypocrisy, she literally tells them to...
Robert Jenrick also defected to Reform, and Zia Yusuf has defended that by saying that it will help the party, albeit those criticisms, the fact that he was responsible for part of this Conservative failure, was that will help the party be more electable. You told us earlier in your speech that never vote for anyone that puts the party before you. If Zia Yusuf has been advocating that the reason why Jenrick's been let into Reform is because it will make the party more electable, is that not putting the party before us? And in which case, have you just told us not to vote for Reform?
You need to study more and stop watching all the news. What Zia Yusuf meant was that a Reform government is good for the country.
So you don't come with facts, but other people need to study more. The audacity is generally impressive, but Leila's self-own is nothing compared to what Nadim Zahawi did on LBC this week. This man, who was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who paid back nearly £5 million in tax avoidance penalties, has now joined Reform and is doing the media rounds to explain why. Nick Ferrari asked him if he feels safe in London, and Zahawi tells this absolutely tragic story.
Do you feel safe in London?
No, I've got to tell you.
And for your children?
Yesterday, I walked from my home in one of the most
well-heeled,
upmarket, you can call it, areas of London, and an individual walked past me. I literally walked off the pavement into the middle of the road, kept a very close eye at 8 a.m., right?
What was this individual? Did he appear to be drunk? Did he appear to be aggressive?
He just looked, like, he hadn't slept for, a week, and just looked like somebody that might be violent. I don't know, but I just walked away from the pavement to walk, and I'm a big guy. Right?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Let me get this straight. 8 in the morning in one of the richest parts of London, you saw someone who looked tired, and you, a big guy, by your own admission, fled into the road because you thought they might be violent based on absolutely nothing except that they might have not had a good night's sleep. And this is your evidence that London is a dangerous hellscape that requires Reform UK limited policies to fix. This is the political equivalent of your dad forwarding you a Facebook post about a migrant crime that turns out to be from 2015 in a completely different country. It's pathetic fear-mongering dressed up as personal testimony, and the fact that he emphasises "I'm a big guy" makes it even more ridiculous because he's essentially admitting he was terrified of someone based purely on their look, while wanting you to know that he could probably handle himself in a fight. Which begs the question, if you're a big guy, why are you so scared of someone who just looks a little bit tired? But here's where it gets really good, because a taller named Craig phones in and just demolishes the entire premise. He brings up the fact that Zahawi paid nearly $5 million back in tax avoidance, compares him to Jim Ratcliffe, who moved to Monaco and cost the UK $4 billion in tax revenue, and asks the very reasonable question: why would we listen to them and why should we listen to you? And Nick Ferrari, bless him, goes into full defence mode with this absolute nonsense.
Yes, so Nadim Zahawi had to pay nearly $5 million back in tax avoidance. Yeah. So Jim Ratcliffe moved to Monaco, made $4 billion, which could have been used for the NHS, schools or whatever. Instead, he was given $7 million to aid his firms. So why should we listen to them? And why should we listen to you?
You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to. But I think when you have the opportunity to speak to someone, so if you come to Mr. Zahawi's case, he's got a personal fortune somewhere in the region of 50 to 60 million pounds. He's a supremely successful businessman. He's opted not to go to Dubai or to Monaco or to Milan. He says he wants to stay here and try and fight it out for the sake of his country. He served, albeit briefly, as a chancellor. He served as the vaccines minister. He chaired the party. He's an interesting person from whom to hear, surely.
Right, so Zahawi gets credit for not fleeing to a tax haven after he's already engaged in tax avoidance schemes that required nearly £5 million settlement. That's the bar, is it? That he didn't do the absolute worst possible thing, therefore we should celebrate him? I mean, listen to how he introduced him.
And, of course, he chaired the Conservative Party, Nadim Zahawi, the great Zahawi.
And when Craig pushes back, Ferrari actually says this.
Yeah, he's interesting, but if you have a look at both of them, he has tried to he avoided tax.
No, I know.
Yeah.
We know that, yes. So,
yes,
let's just write him off then. Just write off a man who arrived here speaking no English as a schoolboy and went on to have about £100 million in the bank. Why on earth should we ever listen to someone who did that? Don't you see? If many people have, and by the way, I'm not seeking to defend Nadim Zahawi from it. Many people do bad things. If you want to actually study the history of Winston Churchill, there are some rather choice moments there. Does that mean you write them off forever and you don't listen to the wisdom of someone who has been a supremely successful businessman?
And then later, when Craig keeps pressing, Ferrari loses it and says this.
Nick, if you're supposed to be an interviewer, you need to be consistent. As one of your previous callers said, you know, I don't know what they've got on you, but you didn't grill him at all. You didn't grill him at all. It's like
Craig. He's not in power. He's admitted that they got it wrong with the last administration. He admitted the 1 million was ridiculous that they let in. He admitted they weren't robust enough about dealing with certain sections of the community. He admitted all. He has no power. He can implement nothing now. He's not even. He's neither in the House of Commons nor the House of Lords. So either you allow this man to speak, or you just say no. The fact that you chaired the party, the fact that you were chancellor.
I haven't got a problem with him speaking. But if you are the interviewer, at least it's like tickling your stomach, mate.
Oh, God, that's such a boring expression. Dear God, they might invent another one one day.
Okay,
Once the man has apologised, what do you want me to do? He has no power. Huh? He's not a minister. He's not a Secretary of State. So he's apologised for what he did. He's apologised for what the government did. And he said he should have done more. What do you want me to do then?
I want you to actually be critical about when you're questioning somebody.
So an apology... OK, so for folk like you, I think we've reached it, because an apology is never enough. Because you are, and I understand why, you're furious about his tax position. I get it. You will never live. And I do think it's healthier to accept that people get things wrong. Tony Blair got things wrong. Did he get everything wrong? No, he didn't. He did some good things for this country. Margaret Thatcher did some things wrong. Did she? No, she brought some. You have to be more welcoming. But unfortunately, Craig, your mind is closed. Your mind is closed to this man, which I think is very, very...
Why do you say that? I've asked you a question, and all you're doing is you're talking over me.
No,
I'm not. So what do you do now?
But all you keep saying is, why... I'm completely calm, I assure you. I'm completely... If you think I've lost my temper like that, you really don't know me well enough.
You're interviewing someone who avoided million in taxes, joined the party that claims to represent the working people, and you're getting annoyed at a caller for pointing out the obvious hypocrisy. The exchange ends with Ferrari saying...
no, it isn't that, no, Nick. I've made a point.
All right.
And you haven't answered it. You haven't answered it.
What was it?
Because to me, you're talking about you've mentioned Nadim Zahawi. You had him on your show. You've also mentioned this other guy, Sir Jim Radcliffe.
Sir Jim Radcliffe.
And you've not been, for me, you've not been critical enough and looking where these guys are coming from.
Well, maybe I think a lot of what they're saying is right. Because I don't think you can sustain an economy with 9 million people on benefits. I don't think that works. And I do think there needs to be a conversation about better integration, particularly in a city such as Leicester, which I know very well, and other cities. What I don't think is that you use language such as colonised. Craig, I must leave it there. Great. Have yourself a good weekend.
Which is just changing the subject entirely because Craig has backed him into a corner about the tax avoidance issue, and he's got no answer. And speaking of people joining Reform, despite previously thinking it was a terrible idea, we just need to talk about Robert Jenrick, because there's this clip that's been doing the recirculation where Jenrick, before joining Reform, said this about Nigel Farage.
I don't think Nigel is the bloke that you want to have running your kids' schools, or running your local hospital, or as the public finances continue to collapse under Rachel Reeves, trust your savings, your pension, your small business too.
I have some time for Nigel. He and I agree on many issues, but I don't think he's a serious politician. I don't think he's got the answers to the problems that our country is facing.
So here's what this week's really revealed. Reform is attracting career politicians who spent years implementing the exact policies they now claim to oppose, who's avoiding millions in taxes while lecturing working people about the benefit of fraud, who called Nigel Farage unserious and frightening until it became politically convenient for them to join, and who openly admit they're dealing in a rhetoric rather than facts. And when anyone points out these contradictions, they get told to study more or stop watching the news, or that they're missing the bigger picture. This is grifting, pure and simple. These people don't have principles, they have polling data. They don't have solutions, they have rhetoric. And Leila already told us that. She just doesn't realise that she was confessing.